So the same thing here?
No. So we're here with our 7th period class, ready to talk about finding the inverse of a matrix. Here we go. All right. So here is a 2 by 2 matrix. All right. To find the inverse matrix of this matrix, we first are going to find the determinant of that matrix A, okay, which you know how to do from yesterday. All right. Now you'll see that it's in the denominator, which is important, so I'm going to come back to that later. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Do you see these numbers? I know they're letters, but they will be numbers. The first diagonal, the A and the D, those numbers, are going to switch spots. All right? The first diagonal, so that way, are going to switch places. They switch locations. All right? The other diagonal are going to switch signs. All right? They're going to switch signs. And there's kind of a cool way to remember how to do that. I think switch ops. So switch places, opposite signs. Switch places, opposite signs. That's how I always remember it. Okay? Switch ops. All right? You don't have to use that. I just like to use it. All right? Let's do an example together slowly. All right? I'm going to call this matrix A. Matrix A. All right? To find the inverse of matrix A, I first need to find the determinant of matrix A. All right, you remember from yesterday, when you see absolute value for this unit, you're thinking determinant. Very good. Thinking find the determinant. All right, so I'm going to do -2 times -4 minus 3 times 2. Yes, Leslie. Not yet. Right now, we're finding the determinant. So the first thing is you're finding the determinant like we did yesterday. All right? So a negative times a positive, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive 8. All right? And then that's going to be 6. So 8 minus 6 is 2. So the determinant of matrix A is 2. Questions? I'm hoping that we're all good with that because that's yesterday. Okay, now here's where it's new. So watch this. This is where it's going to get a little challenging. Okay? So first thing you're going to do is you're going to tell whoever's reading this that you're finding the inverse of matrix A. So this -1 as an exponent tells anyone reading this that the work I'm doing is to find the inverse of matrix A. So a new matrix that is the inverse matrix. Okay? So that symbol is important. I will be checking for that on the test. Equals 1 over. What was the determinant of matrix A? 2. So whatever's here, whatever number it is, -8, 7, whatever number it is, you're going to put it in the denominator. All right, is everybody good with that? Okay, times. All right, so here it is, Leslie. You ready? Okay, here it is. I'm thinking switch ops. So this -2 and -4 in that first diagonal, they're going to switch places. So they're going to be -4 and -2. Do you see how that switch places, Anthony? They switch spots. Okay. Now the other diagonal, +3 and +2, they are going to be the opposite sign. So they are positive. They're going to become negative. Not locations, just the signs change. All right. So I get questions all the time. So what if they had been negatives? Then you're going to write positives. What if one is negative and one's positive? Who cares? And make them the opposite. All right? They can be different signs. The first diagonal is switch locations, so places. The second diagonal is the opposite sign. Sorry, Anthony? No? Okay. Now, everybody good with that? Okay, so here's how we're going to find the inverse matrix. Once you do this work, you're going to take these 4 numbers in this matrix. That's not the inverse matrix. To find the answer, you're going to divide all of them by 2. I know I wrote multiply, but when you multiply by 1 over a number, it's really the same as dividing by that number. So I'm going to take each of these 4 numbers and divide them by 2. That's going to be my inverse matrix. Fractions, decimals are totally fine. Alonzo? Yes. So do you see these 4 numbers? A lot of students think that that's the inverse. That's not the inverse. You take these 4 numbers and you divide by 2. Every single number. You got it. So that's going to be -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. Negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. Or a fraction, negative 3 over 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Anthony, was there a question? How did I get 1 over 2? So this will always be a 1 over. Do you see this determinant? That number always goes in the denominator. So if this had been negative 7, it's going to be negative 7. All right, guys, you're going to get decimals and fractions today. Be okay with that. You're going to get decimals and fractions. That's why you have the calculators out. All right, so you can leave them as fractions or decimals. I don't care. Questions on example 1. So this right here at the end is called the inverse matrix for matrix A. And we're going to need that for something bigger later. We're going to solve a matrix equation. We need this. I know, it's a little... Not yet, no. Questions? Let's do another example. Example 2. I'm going to label this matrix B. So to find the inverse of matrix B, I'm going to first find the determinant of matrix B. So 1/2 times 12 minus 3 times 2. What is half of 12? 6. And what is 3 times 2? 6. So what do you get? 0. Now when you get 0, something interesting is happening. If you remember from example 1, where should I be putting the 0? I should be putting it here where that 2 was, and I'd be dividing all these numbers by 0. And you should know you cannot divide by 0. So when you get 0 and you're doing this, it's not that you write no solution. It means matrix B does not have an inverse matrix. So we write it's a singular matrix. If you wanted to write, Josue, that it doesn't have a inverse matrix, that's fine. Right? No inverse matrix is fine. I would prefer singular matrix. This tells me you know that this matrix B does not have an inverse matrix. Don't need a bet. Any questions about how to find the inverse of a matrix? You're going to need this skill very soon. So I'm going to have you try these 3, but I want you to keep in mind, I'm only giving you 5 minutes. I don't expect you to get all 3 done. If you do, great. But at least 2 out of 3 is my plan for these 5 minutes. Okay, ready? Go.